Welcome to the Whiskey Congress. Honest, open talk dedicated to speaking the truth to those who are open to hearing it. Black, white, right, left. Most importantly, honest, bold, and fueled by good whiskey. In Whiskey Veritas, we are Whiskey Congress. Join the evolution.
Whiskey Congress is back in session, and Steve and I are together in the Cleveland studio on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. Haven't seen you in a while, man. How you doing?
Good, man. A little tired. Been on the run the last, forever. But I'm good.
All right. Well, it's good to see you. Like I said, normally we get together once or twice a week. I don't remember if we did this week.
No.
But anyway, so let's jump right into it. Donald Trump visited Arlington Cemetery to go to a wreath-laying ceremony for 3 of the soldiers killed when we evacuated Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. He was invited there by the families of those soldiers. And, that's understandable. I'll stand up right up front. These families obviously despise Joe Biden. If I'm in their shoes, I probably would too. I mean, fair or not, I understand that completely. Now, here's where things go sour. They wanted to go to an area called Section 60, which is considered a sacred place that is off limits to cameras and videography. They're a employee of the cemetery, which I don't know if that's a Park Service employee or an Army employee.
No, they're a cemetery. It would be the Arlington National Cemetery. Like, they have their own special
police department or whatever,
like division. We'll call it whatever.
Okay. So she's pushed aside because she tries to enforce the rule that you can't use this for political gain and you can't do the stuff in Section 60.
Right.
Section 60. The Trump group totally denies that they did anything wrong. The worker who was pushed, and they also claim that the worker was going through some mental health episode, which I found kind of disgusting because there's no evidence of that whatsoever. There is a law that says you can't use Arlington Cemetery for political gain. They're trying to do that, and any attempt to deny that that's what they were doing, I will find laughable. Like I said, the employee chose not to press charges. The Army issued a statement saying that the Trump group acted inappropriately. However, since charges aren't being filed, the Army considers this incident closed. I find it pretty reprehensible that you would literally use this as a political stunt.
I mean, look, the family wanted Trump there, fine.
Yeah.
Trump can go, right?
Sure.
Like, Trump was invited.
Yes.
Not your whole team, not the videographer, the photographer. The rules are clearly stated, right? Like, this isn't about political gain. You want to do something after, off the grounds, and, talk about Joe Biden and the pullout. Okay, fine.
Sure.
Right? But, you're not going to do it on the cemetery. So the employee, right, the Arlington National Cemetery employee who's trying to stop the rest of the staff was in the right.
Yes.
And it just sucks that she physically couldn't stand her ground because she gets, it sounds like she gets pushed aside by one or more people.
Sure.
And they continue to move on. But this is par for the course for Trump, MAGA, people of this ilk, right? They just decide that they can do whatever they want, right? And then they make it seem like you're the bad guy because they're breaking the rules, and how dare you prevent them from doing whatever the hell they want to do.
Right.
And this is sort of their MO. Doesn't matter truth, accuracy, law, whatever. They just have decided that they can do it. And if it doesn't expressly state that they can't do the very particular thing, and even if it does, they don't care. They're going to tell you that you're wrong, you're crazy. They're going to gaslight you. That is what this like Trump's in MAGA, it is built on just gaslighting, right?
Sure.
Where you're like, hey, you can't do that. Oh, you can't tell me I can't do that. You're a fascist, man. You're a communist for telling me that I can't do something that's clearly stated that I can't do. How dare you? Right? This is a free country. I'm allowed to do whatever I want.
You left out Marxist, which, by the way, the fact that they
Marxist, woke, all that. They throw that shit out all the time, right? Like, and if you're trying to stop them, then you're woke. It's part of the woke agenda, right? Like, you're trying to politicize. Like, no, you are literally trying to take this situation that is sacred, that we all consider sacred, right? And turn it into a political thing. When it's you're at a cemetery. Do it after. Do it before. But don't do it on the grounds. When you're literally standing on the grave of someone who died for your fucking freedom, right? the least you can do is hold your cameraman back. You don't need someone to take a picture of you in front of someone's headstone, right? The other part about it is that, like, in the pictures, you can clearly see the headstone of a soldier that wasn't killed in Afghanistan. And it just so happened that that soldier actually committed suicide. And his family was like, we don't want his photo in the photo with you. We don't want it. We don't want this.
I didn't hear about that, but it's part
Right?
of the course.
You know, and so, you know, they're like Trump and his, like, they don't have a leg to stand on, right? Like, the fact that you try to push your way through when you're being told that you can't do something, right? So instead, like, a national monument employee is saying, hey, you can't do this. And instead of just saying, all right, fine, we'll take it up with your manager, like, we'll stand back, but we're going to have a, you know, we're going to issue a sternly worded letter. Okay, fine. Karen behavior, but acceptable, right?
Sure.
But pushing the person aside and just saying, we can do what we want, screw you, get out of the way, right? Like, that shit is not acceptable. And it's interesting because you got people like Tom Cotton, right, defending Trump and his staff. It's like, okay, Tom, right? Like, I'm so sick of your bullshit, right? You and who's the other one? Tom Cotton, and then
Give me something.
oh my God, who's the other one?
Josh Hawley?
Holly, yeah, right. Like, both of those guys are such just.
Is shill a good enough word, or is that just
It's
not strong
it's
enough?
not strong enough, right? I mean, you know, especially Cotton with his background in the military, but you know, it's
I
just.
don't know what his background is. I mean,
Well, I mean,
he's a service member, right?
Yeah, I mean, and he's got extensive background. I mean, he went to Ranger school, but he like in
Okay, yeah, we've talked
now
about it. Say that.
in you know, he went to Ranger school, but he's not like, he wasn't part of a Ranger regiment, right? Like,
Right.
he was never deployed as a Ranger, right? And
Right.
so there's a distinct difference there. You know, to be deployed in a Ranger regiment is like, you got to go through some shit, right? And it's not like, Ranger school is basically like a leadership school, right? To
Okay.
be a part of a Ranger battalion is a whole other thing. Like, you can't get any special waivers. Like, you have to go through like an extensive, awful, brutal training where they literally, you want to talk about tearing someone down and building them up. Like, it makes basic training seem like a cakewalk. You know, and even if you get through and get selected, right, like, you may never be deployed. Like, you have to be selected to be deployed. It's a big thing to be a Ranger. And, you know, Tom Cotton talks about being, having gone to Ranger school, but he doesn't make the distinction about not actually,
Right.
you know, and so, and it's interesting to listen to him talk about Tim Walz, right? And, you know, this whole controversy about Tim Walz and what his rank is and everything else. But, you know, talking about this, like, at least Tom Cotton, should know, right? And he does know, right? But because he's just, people have just decided, right, that supporting Trump goes above everything else.
Yes, absolutely.
Period, point blank. Right? And you could say that with some people on the left, but it's just so obvious with the people on the right and with Trump and their support of MAGA that it's just, what's frustrating is you either fight with them and they draw you down in the mud, and, you know, you end up like two pigs in shit and nobody's the winner, right? Or you just say, all right, fuck it, ignore them, and we'll just move on. But if you continue to ignore them, like, their ability to just tell lies and bullshit only grows, right? There is there's no winning situation here. You know, it's kind of like dealing, like, it's not even like, I was going to say it's like dealing with a bully in high school, because eventually you just punch the bully in the face, you take your detention, and then that bully will leave you alone, right?
Typically, yeah.
You know, typically, as long as you're willing to do it again, right? And they know it. But in this situation, you can't. There's not one person that you could actually punch in the face, and you can't jail them. You can't silence them. They have the ability to continue to talk clearly, right? And this is where the whole censorship thing gets, because people are like, they shouldn't be allowed to say it, right, if it's not true and all this other stuff. But then it's just like, all right, well, if we sit there and where's the line, right? Where's the line in terms of free speech? And then we do get into this sort of censorship thing. and you find it like for me, it's very tough, right? And I think and it's almost like I don't know what the answer is, right, with stuff like this. I mean, because they're clearly wrong, right?
Sure.
But they're just going to sit there, right? I mean, again, this is something that was covered in South Park, right?
We made it almost 10 minutes in without South Park coming.
But I mean, just tell them they're wrong, right? It doesn't matter what we did, if we're wrong or not. Just if they're telling us we're wrong, tell them they're wrong, and then let them fight it out and move on to the next thing. And that's what and they mastered it.
They have. I can't tell you how many things I've heard where it's like, obviously they're talking about their sins and projecting them onto Kamala Harris. Oh, Kamala Harris is a narcissist. I mean, yeah, exactly. But it's you mentioned gaslighting. It's exactly what it is. I'm just going to say that you are this thing because you've already said or will say that I am. So now,
and we know. And this is not me just assuming what they do. No, right, there are leaked tapes of them training people, right? Like if you're going to work in the Trump camp or in the MAGA camp, right? Like they literally have videos of them training people on how to do this, right? And it's literally gaslighting 101. That is literally what they're doing. They don't call it that, but that's exactly what it is.
100%.
And, and so now we're stuck talking about it. Right, and then there's people that are just going to that will sit there. They listen to the show, and if they're Trump supporters, they're just going to be like, "Nope, you just hate Trump, and Trump didn't do anything. You got Trump derangement syndrome, and he didn't do anything wrong, and they're trying to censor and stop and blah 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 blah." It's just like, okay, but if Kamala Harris did this or Barack Obama did this, you would lose your mind. You would melt down, and you would want to set him on fire. Right. So,
Yeah, and I'm going to say something that is, I guess, technically speculation, but we all know I'm right. If Trump was told by those Gold Star families, we want you to come to this wreath-laying ceremony, but you can't bring any video or photographers, he would have never been there. And the idea that, Harris and
But it's not up to the families to make that decision on whether the cameras can be there or not.
No, it's not. I'm just saying, if there was nothing in it for him, he wouldn't be there. That's all I'm saying, and I don't think you can argue with that and keep a straight face.
No.
I've also heard people say, why wasn't Biden there? He wasn't invited, and frankly, I understand why he wasn't invited. I mean, those people have a lost loved one, and they point the finger at Biden, and it's not crazy that they do, so I get it.
I mean, look, if you really want to look into it, right, there's a lot of blame on Trump with Afghanistan and that pullout.
Sure.
Right, because before he gets out of office, he starts to negotiate with the Taliban.
True.
Right? He cuts out the Afghan government.
True.
Right? He is the one who negotiates that they release all these prisoners and everything and all this other stuff. He's the one who leaves it kind of in this messy sort of situation. And Biden says, all right, fine, fuck it. We're going to pull the plug. Right?
Yep.
We're going to pull the plug.
Well, they made an agreement with a foreign country. I mean, It's tough to change that without declaring war.
I mean,
we just go where we... Yeah, never mind.
Really?
That was quaint.
Okay. So, there is blame on Trump with the way Afghanistan goes down because he knew he did the way Trump did it before he left office, knew that he was going to put Biden in a bind, right? To where there was really no good. There was nothing good for him there. If he pulls out, something bad happens. Great, right? For Trump, right? Because Trump's going to point to see, Biden's no good, right? If Biden stays in, look, he's just dragging it out, staying in Afghanistan, right? I don't know the correct way of getting us out of that situation because we were over there for 20 fucking years. Right,
which is pretty wild when you think about it.
And you still got people saying, "Well, we should have still had people over there. We should have done." It's just like so. What? We just permanently have people there, right? Like, and I don't know how you pull out, right? Like, and it's just like you probably shouldn't have announced it, right? Instead, we were, hey, we're going to do this, and everybody, like, you've got this amount of time, and this is where we're going to be leaving from. I'm sure nothing bad will happen, so there's plenty of criticism to go around for Biden, but there's plenty of criticism to go for Trump. But I understand why the families are saying we're going to blame Biden because Biden was in office and Biden's the one who made the decision, so we want Trump there.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I
understand it.
Right? I wouldn't have made that choice. Right? Even if it's my loved one, maybe I have neither. I probably
wouldn't
don't.
have either. No,
right? I wouldn't
have
have either of them there. You know,
I don't want Mark Milley there either. I mean, Mark
Right.
Milley. If you want to point the blame at an individual, yes, Biden made a decision and he's responsible for that. Both Trump and Biden had Milley as head of the Joint Chiefs. If you're going to point a finger at someone, that's really the guy.
Yes.
But again, it's fair to put administrations
I mean,
are
do whatever you
responsible
want.
for.
Look, as the family, do whatever you want. Right? If you want to put your faith in Trump or whatever, fine. I don't. That's your choice.
Telling people how to grieve is not something I'm comfortable doing.
But Trump. The blame for this incident at Arlington National Cemetery is on Trump and his staff. They'll never own it. I think the staff member probably should have pressed charges. Screw them, right? But they didn't. Right? They chose to take the high road, shut it down. So okay, fine.
And to their credit, it would have gotten more politicized if they had.
And that's why they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? They're just like, fine, we'll get out. This is messy.
No one got injured. You just pushed away. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do. All right. So we have a debate coming up on September 10th. Well, we'll probably get to you before then. But right now, the debate going on is what to do with the microphone. So the agreement was to keep the rules the same as the Biden-Trump debate, where the microphones would be muted for the person who was not supposed to be speaking, which I actually like. But I've heard both sides be accused of not liking one or the other. It's just kind of a mess. It seems to me like Trump is doing everything he can to give himself an out if he doesn't want to have the debate. And of course, he's now accusing Harris of trying to get out of the debate. So back to the gaslighting thing. Do you think it's going to happen? The debate, I mean?
I don't know why we go through this every time. This is my stance. It's going to happen. You
All
know
right.
why? For the same reason I say it's always going to happen. Right? Trump isn't going to walk away from a debate. Trump's not going to walk away from the ability to get on camera, get in front of a microphone, and run his fucking mouth.
He can do that without having someone firing back, and I think he's scared.
You're wrong. How many times do you have to see this?
Well, there's been changes in events.
Oh, he's going to back out of the Biden debate.
Okay.
Didn't even come close.
No, he didn't. And
right?
okay.
And then Biden shits all over himself.
Yes,
right?
he did. Absolutely.
Okay, maybe literally. So I just,
all right.
I mean, the whole idea that Trump is going to back out of a debate is he's not. He cannot resist being in front of a camera and a microphone. He can't. Right? They had to tie him to his chair, right, in a trial that if he would have fucking got on the stand, he would have sunk himself. And he was still determined to get up there, and they had to super glue him to his fucking seat. Right? The dude loves to hear himself talk. He will take any opportunity to do it. He's not scared of her because he's not debating her. He doesn't see it as a debate. He is not even going to process what she's saying. Right? She's going to say things, and he's going to say something stupid, roll his eyes, gaslight her, and then go rambling on about other stuff, and we're going to be like, what the fuck is he talking about? His people are going to say how great he is and that he won. He's going to say how great he is and he won, and it doesn't matter. She could completely eviscerate him, objectively, but he will still count it as a victory. He's not going to pass this up. He's going to do it. Right?
I'm curious. Again, when I see someone like him making excuses, the idea that he can't get behind a microphone and have it all to himself.
But this is what does he do? Right? He makes things messy.
Yeah?
Right? He's going to go in, I don't want them. I want the microphones muted. No, I don't want them muted. She wants them muted. She doesn't want them muted. Right? So now everyone's arguing back and forth about fucking microphones. Right?
And the network.
And the network. No one is talking about policy. No one is talking about what they will actually debate. No one is talking about issues because of this fucking microphones.
Okay.
So again, he's won, right? Because people are going to be talking about the microphones. Are they going to work? Are they going to be on? Are they going to be off? What's the deal, right? Kamala's going to pull out because she wants to, right? He's made it messy, and then he's going to show up, and whatever happens because he's going to check it off as a win no matter what happens, because he doesn't.
Well, again,
You've got 7 years of a track record here of him doing this sort of shit, right? So the question isn't whether. I don't think there's any question that this debate happens.
Okay.
Right.
My follow-up question then. Who do you think benefits from muting the microphones? Because I've heard people argue that Trump benefits from that because, A, he's great at making facial expressions that show his disdain, and that if you keep the microphones rolling, he trips all over himself and looks like a bully and a jackass. And I've heard that argument made. I'm asking your opinion.
I think people are looking at the wrong issues. It doesn't matter, right?
Okay.
Like, it doesn't matter. Like, and this is the problem. Everyone is focused on literally shit that doesn't matter. And so there's no winner or loser, right? It doesn't matter whether the microphones are off and who gets the advantage, whatever, right? Like, this isn't a football game where you actually have a winner and a loser, and you have metrics and you have stats that you can go by, and you can say that's not what this is. It doesn't matter, right? Like, we're not focusing on the actual shit that we should be focusing on, and we're not fucking serious people anymore. We're not.
Okay.
We got a presidential debate, and you motherfuckers are worried about fucking microphones and who's got the advantage if the microphones are muted. Do you hear yourself?
I'm about to mute you.
Go ahead.
Steve has been muted.
And that's
you're
just shit, like,
unmuted.
because it literally pisses me off that, like, there's no one who is a serious adult in the fucking room, right? This is the fate of our country, and this is what you people are talking about. Like, it's infuriating. It's embarrassing. We are not a real country. Whatever fucking happens to us, we deserve.
All right. There are so many things I could apply that statement to, which doesn't make it better. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying how many things are just total deflections and he said, she said nonsense. I'm not ecstatic about Kamala as a candidate. I know who I'm voting for, and that ain't going to change. But I see the alternative as being so bad. This is worse than douche and turd sandwich. This is the fate of the country, and someone that I think is an intelligent person who's got the resume, but I still don't really know where she stands on things. She's, of course, being accused of flip-flopping, which is more, yeah, she did, but talk about gaslighting. Mm-hmm. I mean, Trump has been all over. Seeing him talk about abortion is just comical. Like, how can you get away with this shit?
You've got, Trump supporting the government-funded IVF, right? And, their Project 2025 wants to get rid of IVF, right? Now, look.
And they sure as shit don't want government funding it.
Right. We know damn well Trump is just going to say whatever he feels he needs to say, right, to get support and to get elected. Right? So, he got word back that there's people who support him who support IVF. Oh, well, then, all right, then I support IVF. Right? And then someone's going to tell him, yeah, but there's people who don't support. Oh, okay, well, I don't support it anymore. Right? Like, I mean, and, I'm just backing up your point. Like, that's Trump's MO. He's just going to say whatever he feels, right, is going to move the needle.
Right. Although he's pissed. Like, Nick Fuentes went off on him. I don't have a quote in front of me, but I saw the Nick Fuentes group feels he's now being soft on the abortion issue. And they're saying they're going to abandon him. Now they'll come crawling.
Remember we talked about this. I told you they wanted to start a war against him.
Okay.
Right? In his campaign and everything else, we talked about how him and Laura Loomer were all pissed off. Nick Fuentes and Laura Loomer were all pissed off because the Trump campaign was no longer, really taking their input. Right? And it's like, who the fuck are you? Right? In the first place, right? Like, you're just a bunch of people who appeared on social media and are now pariahs to sane people in the world. They feel that, the swamp has gotten to Trump and is running his campaign, and it's the oligarchs, and it really should be the grassroots Twitter people, sure. The Tim Pools and the Nick Fuentes and the Laura Loomers are the ones who should be, who have the pulse of the people, who should be driving the campaign. There is a beef between them.
The question is, does it cost him any votes?
I
don't mean it flips votes, but does it make people who would otherwise vote stay home? Which is what this boils down to, in my opinion.
And I don't know. I feel like
I don't either.
I don't think that it does. I think those people are still going to vote for him because they're so anti-left, so anti-democrat, so anti-progressive, anti-woke, anti-DEI, anti-everything that's not Trump. So they want to make sure that he gets in.
I know a lot of people who are super, super liberal and love Bernie Sanders and won't vote for a Joe Biden or Kamala Harris because they're not Bernie Sanders. I don't know if that person exists in the photo negative on the right, but if they do, I hope they choose to stay home that day. Have a great day.
Yeah, it's hard to say. That part, I don't know.
I don't know how you find out.
Jumping into the Harris interview with Tim Walz on CNN, it wasn't great. There wasn't much substance to it. And, I know you wanted to talk about the criticism that Harris is getting for doing the interview with Tim Walz, and we'll get to that. But this interview, a lot of people, like both on the left and right, like, oh, well, it was a fluff interview, and, Dana Bash didn't ask the right questions, and then asked, Harris's answers were just she was just kind of taught. She didn't really hit home. And here's my thing. I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks. Why would she do a deep dive? What's the point? Trump isn't doing that, and he's finding rousing success, right? And guess what? She's riding the wave, and the media is being critical of Harris for not being a more traditional, serious candidate, but they're not holding Trump to that same standard. So Harris's thing is like, if you're not going to hold him to that standard, then I'm going by, like, she's like, then that's the standard that I'm going by. Whatever standard you hold him to is what I'm going to do. And if you are going to put, a more directed focus lens on me, right, and demand shit out of me that you're not going to demand out of him, then I'm just not going to do interviews with you, and I'm not going to engage with you. And she's right, because if the media were going to be objective, right, and they were going to call Trump on all his bullshit, they were going to have real interviews with him where they ask him hard questions, they fact check him in real time, in person, make him answer, right, and deal with his temper tantrums and everything else, and they were going to do that consistently, then they've got a legit reason to sit there and hold Harris to that same standard. But they don't do that. They allow him to go on these tangents. They allow him to not be fact-checked. They allow him, like he just goes on Fox News. He never does live stuff with them unless he calls in, right? Their video's always pre-recorded. Like, they're demanding that Trump's team is demanding that CNN release the transcripts of the full interview, everything that was edited and cut out, because if they don't, that's election interference. All right, well, then do that for every Trump interview, then release the full transcript, unedited. We want to see the whole thing. Oh, you don't want to do that? Then why would Harris do it? Why would you do it because of Harris, right?
Or then shut the fuck up. So I got that election interference thing cracks me up, and that we'll talk about that more later, but calling this election interference is a joke. Saying that, I got a conservative friend who texted me and said, all Kamala will do is an edited, taped interview with a chaperone, and Trump has gone on multiple interviews, and he listed the interviews that Trump has done. There were two names I didn't recognize, one, and then two that I did. The two I did were Theo Von and Dr. Phil. So you're really going to come at me with, he had the courage to go on with Dr. Phil and Theo Von. I like Theo Von. I think he's a good comic. But it's a comics podcast where they talked about cocaine. Don't tell me that he's ducking she's ducking the tough interviews and use Dr. Phil, Theo Von, and two people I've never heard of as examples. Right. And in terms of editing, did you ever catch the edit about... so Trump did an interview on Fox, and they asked him about releasing the 911 tapes and the JFK tape, or not tape, but files. So they asked him, would you release the JFK files? Yes. Would you release the 9/11 files? Yes. Would you release the Epstein files? Yes. That's what appeared on Fox. Someone got hold of the full thing and played it, and he says, well, with the Epstein thing, I'd want to be careful, because there's a lot of people who might get unfairly judged. And I'm like, because you were on that fucking plane 50 times, bitch. Of course you don't want that. And I don't think it'll happen, but the Epstein thing is hanging over his head big time. Ghislaine Maxwell is threatening to say things, or people are saying she's threatening to say things. He had previously said, ask Prince Andrew, and now he's saying, I never said, I don't know anything about Prince Andrew. I mean, the lack of accountability for his words is par for the course. I get it. But when they took that tap dance around the Epstein files out, if I'm the Democrats, I'm running that. Oh, you don't want editing? Well, this got edited there, Donnie. Here you go.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The Democrats aren't doing it. Now, going back to Harris and Wall's interview, criticizing her. Well, she can only do it if she shows up with her vice president, who's a man, a white man, nonetheless. Like, guys, I could go back to every presidential candidate for the last, I don't know, not like there's been that many, but all your presidential candidates, at least going back to Clinton, right, did something with their VP.
Yep.
Right? And again, people don't like the way Harris is handling this. And I respect what she's doing, right? And because what the media is saying is, how dare you not let us in? And she's saying, I watched you, like, everything that Biden did that was good, you guys shit all over it, and you guys manipulated and fucked with the story because it was good for views, it was good for clicks, right? I watch how you treat Trump with kid gloves. So if you got and that's not journalism, right?
Right.
That's not objective journalism. That's not the fourth wall. You guys aren't doing your job the way you should do it. So how dare you fucking tell me how to do my job? So I'm going to do it my way. I don't like you. I ain't fucking talking to you. I'm not giving you shit. You don't like it, fuck off. That is exactly what she is telling them, and they can't stand it, right? And then, so now you see the attacks. How dare she, right?
Sure.
And, then they'll run with these stories about her race, right? Well, she's not black. She's Jamaican and Indian. It's not the same, right? Like,
Sure.
all that stuff gets amplified because they're pissed at her because she won't give them the access, right? Like, so they're just like, all right, fine, screw it. But the problem is that the people who support Harris see right through it, right? And it only they're not turning to Harris. Like, no one who truly supports Harris or Harris's supporters are sitting there and saying, well, she needs to do what they say. Right? They're only emboldened and they're only supporting her more because it ain't hard to see what's happening here.
No, and the people who don't want to see what's happening will deny reality if it's stuck right in front of their face.
Right.
But the disrespectful thing about she can only do this with a man standing behind her, that should piss off people, especially women.
It does, and that's the thing. It is. It's pissing off women. It's pissing off black people. They're already fighting this uphill fight where they're just talking. Every time they talk about immigration, they're sitting there and they're saying that, all these illegal immigrants are taking black jobs.
Right.
Ain't no illegal immigrant ever took my job.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Well, and
right? I'm sorry. I was never worried about an illegal immigrant coming in and taking my job as a public defender. I was never worried about an illegal immigrant coming in and taking my job, right, as the VP of legal when I was with the roofing company. I was never worried about an illegal immigrant coming and taking my job as a real estate developer or as the senior manager for the housing authority. Like all these jobs, like I've never had an illegal, and my black ass, right, is black as they come, right? Like, so what are these illegal immigrants taking my job? What is this that you speak of?
Well, that's code, right? The term black jobs is uneducated people's jobs are getting taken away. That's code for that.
Get it? Okay. I completely understand. I know exactly what he's saying, but the point is,
tap dance around that, going, it just means jobs. Like, fuck you.
I was just in a room, right, just last week, for this program that I'm jumping into, and we were all high-level, high-performing people in a predominantly white space.
Okay.
In the commercial real estate space, but we're all black. And none of us were worried about an illegal immigrant taking our job.
Right.
Right. Like, so that statement, every time they make it, is an insult to a whole lot of black people who have jobs.
Yeah. Professionals who do. Yep.
Because look, there are plenty of black people out there who are not where I'm at. Right, for
plenty
different reasons. But there's
at.
plenty of white people who are not where I'm at either.
Right.
Because when I go down to Kentucky, right, to work on this project that we're working on down there, I'm in a county where the area median income is $14,000.
Yikes.
For a family of 3.
Oh, God.
Okay, let me say that one more time. The area median income. The median income in the area we're at is $14,000 for a family of 3.
For people who don't know what median means, it means that half the people are at that level or below.
Yes.
So averages can be deceptive, right?
Right. Because you can have,
a millionaire and 2 people making $10, $10 an hour.
And so you get a weird.
You've got $300,000 annual average
but
salary.
The median
says what the population's really like. Yes.
Right. So, and here's a prime example of that. I go down to the hardware store, right? Because I had to get something for the machine, for the 3D printer. Because we have that. It's fun. But I go in, and there's a guy, older white guy, says, "Oh, they're opening a new plant down at such and such, man. They're paying $15 an hour. I need to go down there and get me a job." I mean, I won't, man. I ain't working all those hours, but $15 an hour, he's like, "That's crazy." Right? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, $15 an hour? I was making $15 an hour in fucking high school. What? I was making $15 an hour in high school in 1996. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It is 2000.
Is that at a pizzeria or was that a different job?
A pizzeria with some other stuff.
Oh, okay, I got
With some other, a couple other stuff. Yeah, stuff.
All right, that wasn't an entrapment question.
Some of the guys, some of the fellas, the good fellas would have us do some different things. But my point is,
they weren't paying you by the hour.
That is
okay. You know what?
More or less correct.
I don't want to get my co-host indicted.
Look. My point is though that some of these references that they make, right? They think that they want to stand on this and sit there and think that and look, there are some low level. There are some black people out there who will buy this, right? Who have bought it. Right? Oh, the illegal immigrants are taking our jobs.
Yeah.
Okay.
The ultimate South Park, right?
Right.
They took our jobs.
Right? There are some black people who buy into that.
Sure.
Right? And maybe, and we won't get into the reasons as to why, right? I don't want to sit here and say that I'm attacking them or whatever, but there's some people who buy it. Okay, fine. But the reality is that a majority of the people that they need to worry about, that Trump and MAGA need to worry about, there's a lot of us out there who see right through that bullshit. Right? And it ain't bringing us any closer to you, right? I'm a firm believer that we need to get a handle on immigration. I'm a firm believer that we need to invest in protecting the border.
Sure.
But again, my thing is increase the technology, increase the numbers of people down there, increase the number of social workers, increase the number of judges and attorneys that are working down there that can process people faster, right? Should we build a wall? I think if it's a wide open space and it's not going to fuck up people's land and property and everything else, sure. Put a physical barrier.
Where it makes sense,
right?
I'm all for it.
One, where we already have barriers, let's improve those barriers. And then 2, where you can, but there's parts where you literally cannot.
Or don't need to.
Right, or don't need to, right? But there is an approach to doing this, but no one has done a good job of putting it all together. And here's the thing. It is something that is going to take a while to fix and figure out.
Sure.
Right? It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to be able to get the bodies that you need down there overnight. You're not going to be able to get the actual physical things to stop it overnight. Now, the technology that can help with this, drone surveillance, X-ray, heat, all that sort of stuff where you can see what's in various things and you can tell whether it's drugs or people that are being hidden, and that sort of stuff. You can get down there a hell of a lot sooner, and they need to do that.
And there was a bill to do that got killed by Trump, but that's another story.
Well, it's not another story, right? Because that's part of the story, right? If they were so worried about it, you do something, right? You don't sit there and do nothing because of politics, right? But that's exactly what they did. They chose to kill it because it wasn't good for Trump. It wasn't good for Republicans if the Democrats got a win on the border.
Right.
So let's continue to fight it until we can get our guy in, and they'll probably end up passing the same bill once he gets in if he were to do so.
Almost for sure.
And that's the thing that's embarrassing, again, that, we let this happen.
Yeah. Yep. And I was going to go off on a tangent, but there's other things I really want to talk about. One of them is Mark Zuckerberg's statement about the Biden administration pressuring him, pressuring Meta, Facebook, whatever, not to release story or to suppress stories about COVID and about Hunter Biden. And Zuckerberg came out and said, I did do those things. I did feel pressure from the Biden administration, and I shouldn't have, and I won't do it again. Okay, fine. So then my friend says, that's election interference, isn't it? Like, no. What a company that is not government associated chose to put the content they chose to put on their platform is not voter suppression. Having said that, the whole thing about Biden putting pressure on Zuckerberg to not release stuff about Hunter Biden, look, I understand that. Because the stuff that would get released would be things like hookers snorting coke off his dick. I can understand why they would say, I don't want that, and I will say for the 1000th time, anyone who really gave a shit about Hunter Biden is being foolish and is being led by the nose. Hunter Biden is a career fuck up, no doubt about it. He's now a convicted felon, his problem, but he was irrelevant from the jump. He was just opposition research, and I don't care.
So let me stop you.
Try to stop me.
The thing with Zuckerberg, his timing on this is interesting, but it's problematic what he's saying. And I don't know if I can just sort of sweep this under the rug. Now, I don't think Joe Biden called Mark Zuckerberg and said, hey, keep the stuff about COVID quiet, and then called him back and said, hey, keep the stuff about my son quiet, right? I don't think that's what happened, right? Just let me play it out. The Biden administration is large, the administrative machine is huge. Sure. I doubt it was Biden. I doubt it even came from Biden. I doubt Biden even thought about it, right? But somebody on his team looked at it and said, oh, this could hurt us, so I'm going to make a call. Right? Now, maybe it got as far as his chief of staff. I don't know. Right? But when you have the government putting pressure on media to alter how they would normally operate in order to, in favor of the president, like that, I can't just ignore that and say that's a decision by a private company and no big deal, right? It's problematic. Do we go as far to say that it's election interference?
Oh, come on.
No, I'm not saying it, but look, it is a problem though, right? Because here's the thing. If Trump's in office, right, and there's video of Don Jr. doing what we all assume he's doing anyway, right? Lines of coke off of...
Probably not off Hunter Biden's dick, but maybe.
Who knows, right? But, I mean, doing lines of coke off of,
whatever,
some stripper's ass, whatever, right? And the Trump administration suppresses that. Everyone would lose their shit. Right, the anti-Trump people would have the same attitude towards this that the MAGA camp would have, right? Like, why are you suppressing that? That's censorship. Blah 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 blah. Right? It would you can't say that it wouldn't be.
Here's my counter to that.
What's the counter? It's the same thing.
Here's my counter. The choosing to try to suppress. We'll stick with that word.
Here's my thing. They shouldn't be fucking communicating with Facebook. Period.
Okay.
Unless it's actual crime.
Hold on. What about, so they said they suppressed COVID information. Well, were they trying to avoid COVID disinformation? Because there was plenty of that shit going around there.
They shouldn't be talking to Facebook.
Okay. Should Facebook be covering Hunter Biden? Should Facebook be saying, if you're going to throw random shit out there about COVID that you have no credentials on, we're not putting that out there because it's fucking dangerous. So let's put Hunter Biden aside. COVID-related stuff.
If Facebook makes that decision on their own,
okay,
on
for
their
for the
own.
COVID thing, I believe they did. I don't think that was a Biden thing. The Hunter Biden thing.
That's not what Zuckerberg said.
I know he admitted to the Biden stuff. I don't remember him saying the Biden administration pressured him on the COVID thing. Either way, they made a decision. I agree with you. Government interference, or involvement.
If Meta is making that decision on their own, no call from the White House, no letter from the White House, no email, nothing like that, right? If Zuckerberg had got up there and said, look, I didn't like what people were saying about COVID. I felt it was dangerous. I made the choice to censor it. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Okay.
All right.
Fine. But he's saying that he felt pressured to make these adjustments in their algorithm because of pressure he felt from the White House. And he's got emails and whatever to back it up. I have a problem with that. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I
understand what you're saying. And I'm not. But what I'm saying is, well, like, government should not be reaching out to the media saying, like, now, do they do it all the time? But that doesn't make it right.
No, I agree.
Right? That you do not want this president, right? Like, this precedent, right? Like, because if you're going to sit there and try to sweep it under the rug now, then so what's to stop? Like, because if that's the case, let's say Trump does get back in office, right? And if you're going to sit there and say, well, it's not a big deal, it's not election interference, blah, 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 you know, then, okay, so now you got a problem because Trump's going to get in there and they're going to do the same thing, right? And we know they did the same thing, right? Trump's administration did the same thing. The White House should not be talking to Facebook or Twitter or X or whatever.
At least not behind closed doors, right? If they want to get on there and be broadcast, okay, that's fine.
That's one thing if you want to use the platform.
Okay, agreed.
Right? It's one thing if you want to use the platform, right? If you want to talk to them to make sure that the platform is secure, right, so that you're not getting hacked or whatever, right, or your information isn't being stolen and then repurposed or, you know, AI, like, hey, make sure you protect their shit. Okay, fine. But other than that, the White House, the State House, Congress, senators, governors, mayors should not be talking to Facebook about what is on those Facebook or X or whatever social media, what's on those platforms. That's where I come in, right? Now, it doesn't bode well for the Democrats or the left to make that argument. I also don't really give a fuck. Because at the end of the day, you do not want the government doing this shit. And it just so happens that it falls, you know, if you're anti-Trump, then you're looking at this and saying that was the right move, right? But again, if I just switch names and it's the Trump administration doing this, the same people that are trying to say it's not that big of a deal would absolutely lose their minds if it was the Trump administration that was doing it, right? So the White House and the government needs to stay the fuck away from social media and standard media, whatever, in trying to tell them and dictate what they should have on their platform. That's my stance.
Fundamentally, I agree with you. My only counter is that if it's about public safety, like, hey, if you just turn people loose, and you're right, the private entity should make that decision on their own. I'd like to know what pressure really means. Like, is this someone, you know, some staffer or whatever? I don't know what pressure usually means. There's a threat. What threat is being made? And I also have heard people speculate that Zuckerberg came out with a statement at this time because he's afraid that Trump is going to get reelected and that he doesn't want to be on the wrong side of Trump. And if he changes his mind post-election and Trump has won, it's that much more thinly veiled as to why he's doing it, so he's doing it now. That's pure speculation. It's not my point. It's one I've heard made, and I'm like, I can't dismiss that offhand.
Yeah, I that part I agree with, and that's why I even said, like, the timing of this from Zuckerberg is interesting, but I still think, and look, he's got a role to play in this because he did make the choice.
Yeah.
Right?
And he made a statement, which was, again, interesting.
Right. I just, I think that, and whatever that threat was, right, that made him say he felt pressured,
right,
does matter, right? Because you have to wonder, is the threat, like, if you don't suppress it, then, you know, all of a sudden we're going to come after you as a monopoly or something like that. We're going to break up your company, right?
Sure.
And we've got the ability to do it.
That would be completely inappropriate, regardless of who did it.
Because
if that comes out, I will take a much stronger stance against it.
Because that's the only thing I could imagine. That's the only threat that they have. What else? What other threat do they have?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it was...
They're $1 trillion fucking company. I mean, at the end of the day, what are you going to do to them? Unless you break them up, and you legitimately break them up. Right? Now, it's been out there. I mean, like, they've done some minor sort of breakup and separation with WhatsApp and Instagram and all that other stuff. But, I mean, I
thought Meta still owns Instagram.
They do. I don't know.
Anyway.
But the point being, I'm curious what, like you said, if and what the threat was, right? Because if he's saying he felt pressured, right, then there's got to be a reason why he felt pressured, right? Or was it just implied? Hey, you should do this, because otherwise, man, we would be forced to...
The old protection money thing. Hey, you want someone to watch for your
we're going to have to look at you a little closer and all that other stuff. I don't know. But
Yeah, that's the other threat, right? We're going to dig into your finances. We're going to send in the IRS. Now, again, that's too far. I won't push back on that.
But here's the thing. Now, maybe they should have pressed Zuckerberg and said, how did you feel threatened? What did they do? Why did you feel pressured? Right? If he says, well, it's just the White House calls, right?
Yeah.
You do what they say. I mean, and that's valid. That's valid, right? Yeah. If the White House called us right now, right, we get a call from the White House, and I've actually gotten a call from the White House before, which is wild.
Oh, good for you.
I got a call from the White House, didn't believe it, right?
Oh, I remember this now.
Hung up, got a call back.
I remember the story now. Good.
It was real, right? And I got invited to, there was a National Hate Crimes Convention when I was in high school because of an unfortunate experience that I had. And we had written some letters to congressmen and to Bill Clinton, and somebody actually read it, and they invited us to this hate crime convention, which was pretty wild. We got to meet the dude from American History X and that whole thing. But
Ed Norton or
no, the actual
author?
The actual author. Which his name is escaping me now. But so
be more cool was Ed Norton.
God, that was almost 30 years ago. Holy shit.
Yeah. Not quite.
I mean, Clinton was in the White House.
Oh yeah, I guess you were 13.
I mean, because it was at this point in time, I was like 16.
Okay. I'm not going to quibble with you for 30 versus 27.
But either way, it was a long fucking time ago for me. And so that did happen. But anyway, White House calls us right now and says, "Hey guys, we know you're recording your podcast right now, and your comments on Afghanistan. Whether we use the NSA to listen in on this or not doesn't matter. But point being, why don't you guys tone it down a little bit? Right now." I would love to tell you that I would tell them to go fuck right off and we're going to say what we want to say. But I don't know if that's how that would actually go down.
That would be fascinating.
Right? Like, I mean, it's easy, right? Like to sit there and say what you would do. But you get that call from that White House, and you're like, "What the fuck?" Right?
This is the old. You made a zillion comments about how everyone's a tough guy when they're behind a keyboard.
Yes.
Yeah, we can be tough guys right now.
Right.
I would look Joe Biden right in the eye and say, "Fuck you, Joe. You're a lame duck anyway, and I'm going to do what the fuck I want. What are you going to do about it?" What I would probably say was, "Thank you for calling, sir."
Yep, we're going to go ahead and we're going to delete this whole show, and we're just going to do a show talking about football. Right? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know what I would do, honestly.
I don't know. I mean,
but it would be intimidating just to get that call.
Right.
A call's trying to restrict your behavior, even if the threat isn't made. It's kind of
Here's
implied.
the problem. I actually know what I probably would do because I know how I react when people try to tell me what to do.
Well, then there's that.
And I'm just actually for us, it would probably go very south because I have this oppositional defiance to being told what to do, and I'm an asshole. So I would probably get us thrown in jail. But
who is we?
Oh, you think that they're going to let you walk?
I would roll on you. I don't have to. It's all fucking recorded. All right.
But yeah.
I wouldn't roll. I'm not a rat. But I do have the right to remain silent, and I would probably use the fuck out of it. All right. let's move on to a couple of quick things. Unless you have more to go. I think we're pretty good.
I just picturing myself getting hauled out in handcuffs and you just sitting there silent. Me berating you and getting additional charges thrown on, like as I try to body slam Secret Service.
I would not press charges if you punched me on the way out the door. I might. All right, I want to talk about one thing real quick, and this is a continuing story. I don't have a strong understanding of what should and shouldn't be done, but the body of the guy who shot at Donald Trump in Pennsylvania has been cremated. As what I've heard and read is that the only autopsy that was done was a cause of death determination, which was probably pretty easy, and that the body was subsequently cremated. And I find this just, I think I've done a pretty good job of not going full-blown conspiracy guy. I do not believe the official story. I don't know what I think happened.
You know how I feel about conspiracies, but I'm with you. I don't know. A lot of the story doesn't make sense, doesn't add up. There's just,
I cited him an hour before.
Yeah,
the rangefinder on the roof.
Now, I think a big part of this story is incompetence, and I think when you have high levels of incompetence, it looks sketchy. But
True.
I mean, when you know what I mean, I think I think Secret Service kind of mailed it in. The locals didn't have a lot to go off of. weren't well trained, and didn't have a great rapport with the Secret Service, and it was messy as fuck. And this is what happens, and so that helps to breed the conspiratorial sort of bacteria. But there's also some things that like don't completely add up. Now this isn't a big deal to me, right? Like, what, they didn't do a toxicology report. Okay,
they didn't do a brain analysis and see if he had CTE.
He got shot in the head, so I don't know.
They might find there's a hole in his brain.
There's probably
the
damage, the CTE damage may not.
I mean, that's okay.
He got a hole in his head,
but. All right, again, I just find it, and so they may have done more of an autopsy that they're releasing, and that's the rights of the family.
Right.
But this is such a weird thing.
Did you see the actual autopsy report
on the kid that got shot? No.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I don't know if we have enough information, right? I mean, they're like, look, the cause of death, he got shot in the head, and then like they probably didn't release in the media. Maybe they did do a toxicology report,
maybe,
right? And we just haven't seen it.
A vial of blood in a
right, and maybe they did a toxicology
somewhere.
report. But if they did a toxicology report and there was nothing in his system, what?
Well, and I don't even know what would be in the system that would make
right.
me
I don't even know
anything.
why that would matter. Who cares? I mean, if he was geeked out on meth, but I mean, like if he's geeked out on meth, he's probably not even getting as close with that shot as he did. Realistically,
I would think not.
Have you ever seen a person on meth?
I have. I've never seen a person on meth at a shooting range that I know of.
Thank God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, just seeing a person on meth, how they generally act, like I don't know if they're going to be able to.
Your marksmanship would be badly impacted.
You know what
by
I mean?
that.
And he wasn't a great marksman, but I mean, I don't know.
There's a whole lot of things in the story that
there's
I'm
a
just
lot
not
that's in the
satisfied
story
with.
that doesn't make sense. I don't think this is one of them. I think this is something like it was like, look, he got shot in the head. What do you want us to do with the body? Like, he's not an alien. He's human, and that's about like, because what else are you going to get from an autopsy? What are you looking for? A chip implant?
What's that?
What are you looking for? A chip implant or something? Elon Musk was controlling him through his.
Well, clearly it would be Zuckerberg.
Right. Well, I don't know, right? But I just
now if Zuckerberg called us and said tone it down on the Zuckerberg stuff, or we'll take away your Facebook account.
I already.
I know you care. You don't care.
Well,
and Zuck wouldn't do that.
Did you know I deleted my?
Yeah,
Facebook?
you told me.
So.
All right. Anyway, I just want to keep a finger on that pulse.
There's a lot of questions about that, and I think the questions are there's like either it was faked by Trump and his team, right, to give him more status, or it was deliberately ignored by the Secret Service because the Biden administration got wind of it and said, "Oh, we could stop it, but why not? Let's see what happens." Or some other weird sort of mix. There's talk about because there was a guy who had been to Iran that shortly after this got arrested or killed. There's a lot of
okay, because that was another conspiracy, right?
And then
the Iranian government,
right? The Iranian government was
manipulating
manipulating the kid and found him online and radicalized him, and
that's not impossible.
No, none of it's impossible, and I just think we don't have the story. I don't think we'll get the story, and this is so sloppy and so messy. I don't think that you'll have the organization that you had around the Kennedy assassination. Right, that was a CIA thing, right, with some other players, right? But it was a well-organized conspiracy, at least once everything was released. You know what I'm saying?
True, but in a very different world too.
Right, in a very different world, because all they had was typewriters. You know what I mean? It's literally.
And the only camera is a Zapruder film.
Yes,
and
this is a different world with social media, and message boards, and
high def cameras in everyone's hands.
Right, and just all around, it's a whole different sort of mess that you're dealing with. So. Again, I don't know.
I'm just saying the story has not gone away from me. And I'm going to keep an eye out and see. And I'm sure I'll read a shit ton of conspiracies. And I promise not to do my 4 a.m. drinking Manhattans and digging into everything I can. I'll drink red wine instead. All right, real quick. George Santos issued a tearful apology and statement right before when the sentencing date was announced, and it's coming up very soon. I don't remember the exact date, but he was very tearful and very apologetic and said, I did some awful things and I feel terrible and this is what I deserve. And he said all of the right things, and it's just sad to me because there is nothing you can say that I would believe. When you've lied to me so many times, obviously not me personally, but lied so many times on camera about so many things, defrauded so many people, and been such a shit human, there's no reason for anyone to believe your tears. So, I do find a level of empathy in that. Yes, he's lying in the bed he made, but at the same time, it's just like, you're just a sad, pathetic person.
Yeah, I don't care.
I know.
I don't, right? He is what you get when you elevate a guy like Trump, right?
Okay.
And I don't want to have sympathy or empathy for him. Whatever he gets, he gets. I hope they max him out. Whatever happens to him. I won't get into what his prison experience will be like.
Thank you.
Enjoy it. Whatever. I don't care.
Almost.
He's
Almost,
just.
thank you.
I just don't care.
Okay. No, I hear you. I just saw that and I was like, you know what? You're giving the perfect performance, and I'm sitting there going,
as far as I'm concerned, now that he's out of Congress, I literally don't care. He's out of Congress. He was found guilty. Now we're at sentencing. Everything that needed to happen has happened. Okay. Right? In my opinion.
That's completely valid.
Right? The guy, he won't be back in Congress. We don't have to worry about him. And whatever happens, jail, long sentence, short sentence, I'm done with him. Okay. I'm sure he will try to weasel his way back in. He did such a good job of burning so many bridges. I doubt we really have to worry about him. I'm
confident he will not be back in office.
He definitely won't be back in office. I'm sure he'll try to make a play as some sort of analyst somewhere on some.
He's going to write a book.
Oh, he's definitely going to write a book, and it'll flop. He didn't have the support. I'm not worried about him.
All right, real quick. Are you ready for some football? I believe the league kicks off this Thursday, doesn't it?
Yeah, NFL kicks off this Thursday. College football kicked off this week, or actually technically last week. I got to go to the Ohio State game yesterday. Now, they played Akron. They beat them thoroughly.
As expected.
Love football season. For me, especially this year, just with everything I have going on, football is literally my reprieve, right? It's the one thing where I can completely shut my brain off and just watch and enjoy, kind of. Because I will be watching all the Steeler games again after they're played, and then going through and charting plays, and then sending them into Mike Tomlin, which they never read. Clearly they don't, because if they did, then they would be doing what I say and they'd be winning more. But that's a whole different conversation. But I am very excited. Columbus yesterday was electric. Buckeyes got off to a slow start in the first quarter, but then just overpowered Akron and just beat the hell out of them physically. Over the course of the game. I am a little bit concerned, though. I wasn't loving the way the offense was going. And the offensive line didn't look great against the Akron defensive line, so I do have concerns about them running the ball this year. But it was the first game early, a lot of transfers, a lot of people sort of getting their feet wet. But man, that pregame, it is, whether you're an Ohio State fan or not, that 10 minutes before the guys run onto the field is just, when you talk about pageantry and electricity and everything else, like just what they do with the video board, the band, you know, the smoke and the flames, and just the way the team running out on the field. I just, even watching, you know, the ROTC group get the flag going up in the air for the national anthem. Like, I mean, it was electric. I had goosebumps the whole time. It was everything for me not to jump down onto the field and just steal a helmet and go hit somebody. It was fucking fantastic. My UMass Minutemen lost to Eastern fucking Michigan, and I won't even get into my disdain for my alma mater right now in football. That's a whole different conversation.
West Virginia got boat raced by, they got
beat
handily by Penn State.
By a very good Penn State team, to be fair. And here's something for you. So last night after the game, the big conversation was, because your coach, Neil Brown, played with me at UMass, right? And this was a conversation that I actively partake in, but it was like, look, Neil Brown's going to be available sooner than later, right? So how long do we hang on to our Brown, Don Brown, right? Punt Don, and then just go get Neil.
As an OC?
As a head coach.
Oh.
Why the fuck would we make him an OC?
We said Don Brown.
Don Brown is our head coach now. Neil Brown is your coach.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Oh, you mean UMass?
Yeah.
I thought you meant Ohio State.
No.
And I was like,
no.
are you crazy?
UMass.
I can see that happening.
No.
Now, Neil Brown was on the hot seat last year. I think this is a make or break year for him, for sure, because if he wins 9 games and gets us to a decent bowl, he's fine.
Yeah.
If he goes 7-4,
if he goes 7 or less, he could be out.
He could be out.
And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of rooting for it.
I understand.
Because
for a second,
I want him to come home.
I get you.
You know what? Here's the funny. You want to talk about small world, right?
Go for it.
So just like, and it's all like, so Neil Brown is coaching at West Virginia, who I played with at UMass, right?
Right.
But Neil Brown he transferred from the University of Kentucky to play at University of Massachusetts, right? And my nephew transferred from Michigan to the University of Kentucky. Right.
Okay.
So it's weird, right? Like that all these sort of weird tangent connections, right? Like a guy that I played with is coaching at your alma mater,
right?
Right. And then my nephew is playing at the school that the guy transferred from. That it's just weird, small world. Anyway.
All right. I didn't watch much football yesterday because I was at the Pro Football Hall of Fame for the first time in my life.
What'd you think?
I thought it was a good experience. I'm glad I did it, but it's a cool thing to do.
You're a casual. You're a casual.
Oh, don't even go there. All right, you know what? I'm done with you already. All right, we are at Whiskey Congress on Instagram, X, and other social media outlets. Thanks for listening. We're done.
NSA, Jim has plans to kill the president.
I hate you so much right now. You fuck.